I believe it was last Sunday where Warren Buffett turned 94. Warren
Wow.
Buffett, CEO of Berkshire Hathaway, he's given away half his wealth. And one of the things that I did around his birthday is I gave out a series of quotes that I thought were impactful. Well, I've got the one and only Brian Adamson, who has a way of just getting to the crux of an issue. I have 5 Warren Buffett quotes that I want to run past Brian and see how he reacts. Brian, you ready for this?
I am. Let's do it.
We're going to start with this one. Someone is sitting in the shade today because someone planted a tree a long time ago.
Mm, mm. Yeah, I think it's just another reminder of sowing and reaping, right? We as society today, everybody wants to harvest, but nobody wants to sow the seed. Right? I mean, it's just when I say it that way, it's like, well, that doesn't make any sense. How could you have one without the other? But yet every day, it's like the big idea, the big idea, the big idea. And it's like, no, you got to put some seed in the ground and water it and cultivate it and give it some time so then you can expect a harvest. And here's the best part. There's a scripture in Ecclesiastes, arguably the wisest, wealthiest man in the Bible, King Solomon, that says to sow your seed in the morning and get busy by afternoon, for you do not know which one of those things you shall profit from.
Ooh.
So another problem with people, if they do sow a seed, it's similar to like renovating a property and you paint the walls and you sit there and watch the paint dry. It's like, no, go do something else in the property, right? So sow your seed in the morning, get busy by afternoon, for you not know which one of those things you'll profit from. And so I just think that that quote is synonymous with sowing and reaping. Folks can only benefit from the harvest if somebody was bold enough to put the seed in the ground.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that, again, I try to stay remarkably consistent and frankly, probably repetitive and boring is getting wealthy is a pretty simple formula, right? You create disposable income. So the disposable income can be invested in assets. Those
Yep.
assets then held for 10 years. You're great to get wealthy. Most people think it's 10 minutes or 10 days or 10 weeks. It's 10 years. Right? It takes a while to grow a tree and to get shade from a tree. So Warren Buffett
But
with
to
another.
your point, Mike, what you also doing is in that 10 years, you're not looking at the first seed you sowed 10 years prior. You're
Yeah.
continuing to perpetuate to put more seed in the ground over that 10-year period.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. All right. Number 2. This is one that I remember hearing when I was 24, 25, when I was getting my MBA. Only when the tide goes out do you discover who is swimming naked.
It's so interesting to me how wealth principles are simple but not easy,
Mhm.
right? When you look at the parallels of life and wealth principles, like it's shocking to me sometimes um how much they mirror one another, right? Very simple concepts like the one you just said. When I hear that, I think of again becoming the person. If you acquire enough skill along the way, even in the rough times where everybody else is essentially getting taken out of the market, that you will be able to sustain because at some point you did the right things to prepare yourself with the right equipment, with the right skill set, with the right tool set to thrive during that time and not survive.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm reminded there's a book that I read when I was very young, which is often quoted, Millionaire Next Door. Actually, one of my prized possession is an autographed copy of that book from the author,
Mhm.
Thomas Stanley, I believe.
Yep.
Um, One of the first pages, might be page number 2, there's a quote that says, "Big hat, no cattle."
Mhm.
And when I hear that quote today, or I say it in my head, I think about all social media gurus. There are so many people flexing fake wealth that will be bankrupt or in jail in the next 12 to 24 months for fraud, Ponzi schemes, credit. I mean, just nasty stuff. And this is what happens when the tide goes out. Some of these shysters, these ill-gotten gains, they're going to go to jail or going to go bankrupt.
For sure. For sure.
Yeah. All right. Number 3. This one might be my favorite. It takes 20 years to build a reputation. in 5 minutes to ruin it.
I remember very few things I remember from my childhood, right? I know that's gonna sound crazy in and of itself, but I got the memory of a quarterback. I throw a pick and then I move on, right? That's just, I'm always looking forward. And so, but there are certain distinct things that stick out to me that I learned along the way in my childhood. And one of which my dad told me when I was 5 years old to look a man square in his eye, shake his hand firm, and keep your word. If you do those three things, you're probably gonna be all right in life. And at 5, that didn't resonate. And even at 18, it probably didn't. But now at 40, and I look at the mediocrity in the world today and how many people that don't keep their word, who just say things to hear themselves say it and never mean any of it. Like, if you want to be a part of the 1%, just keep your word. Be impeccable with your word, right? Just start with that.
So
Just be
easy.
impeccable with your word. And it's such a simple idea, but it's such a difficult task for folks. And I believe if you could do that, Mike, that you can be wildly successful in the process of just keeping your word, doing the things you say you are. I don't went off on this tangent to where I don't even remember what the quote was anymore, but
It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to
so
ruin it.
there you go. So just be impeccable with your word, because at the end of the day, that's what people remember you by. Did you
Well,
do the thing you said you
yeah,
would?
here's the deal. We are going to see gurus, highly respected gurus, people that are at the top 1% of this profession that you and I are in,
Mm-hmm.
who are going to forget that quote. They are going to do things because it feels good in the moment. Maybe it puts out a small fire, and they're going to ruin it. Do 5 minutes, you can ruin your reputation.
For sure.
There will be people who are big in the name, big in the business, who were general GPs, general partners, who are part of 10, 15, 20, 30 syndications.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those are having capital calls. They're not paying dividends or distributions now. And some of them, I don't know who it's going to be, but we'll see in a year to 18 months. Some of them are going to take funds from this syndication, move it to that syndication, just to decompress a short-term pain. And once that decision is done, you have now committed a crime. And when you're caught, it's not if, but when you're caught, you're going to go to jail. And that reputation you built over 20 years will be gone in a heartbeat. It's going to happen.
Yeah,
Human
no,
behavior.
that's a great point, Mike. And I express this to my students more often than not. Do not commingle funds.
Yes.
Just don't. They're all separate businesses, and you have to treat them as such.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You
Here,
know,
you got one that's doing well, and you got this one over here that just needs a little more time. And you're just going to go, oh, I'll make it up. No, that's illegal. Don't do
that's right.
that.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Oh, it's going to happen, Brian. I promise
Yeah.
you it's going to happen. All
Yeah.
right, we got two more, and I might surprise
Oh,
you with
but
a
you know,
sixth.
just really quick to that before we
Sure.
transition from that one, because I just thought about the quote again. 20 years to build it, 5 minutes to ruin it.
Yeah.
The problem, Mike, is that people aren't taking 20 years to build it.
That's true. Yeah.
Just let that sink in for a minute. People are cutting the camera on and becoming whoever they're supposed to be at a moment's notice. Right. So that house is built on not built on a solid foundation to begin with. One good gust of wind, it's gonna knock it over for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. In a recession, that's a big gust of wind. So it's
Yes.
coming. All right. We got two more for sure. Price is what you pay, value is what you get.
That's good. I like this one a lot because I think a lot of people, when faced with the opportunity to make investments in themselves, always say that's too expensive. I can't afford it. But I would argue that people buy stuff that they can't afford every single day. They know, look, the holiday's coming up. Nobody's a stranger to it. Somebody's going to be over that cash register trying to buy a gratification present for somebody, and they're going to get that feeling in their stomach that they shouldn't swipe that card, and they're going to do it anyway. But it's to that very point of the quote, because, and I like to say it, price is only an issue in the absence of value. So if people perceive the value to be great enough, they're going to pay the price for it.
Yeah. I like that. Yeah, it's really funny to me because again, this quote came from when he was buying stocks. It's often applied to buying businesses now. But to
Hmm.
me, it's also when you know real estate, it's also very much real estate oriented. So, for example, one of the things I've told for years is I used to buy two bedrooms at a two-bedroom price. I used to find a floor plan that would allow me to create a third bedroom, and now I could rent it as a third bedroom,
Hmm.
right? That's just one of dozens of examples. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. And when you do the work, you can find value that other people miss,
Yeah,
right? It's all
100%.
about value.
100%. It's so interesting because a lot of people, when they're trying to think about in business specifically, where should they price things? More often than not, for most people who are uneducated on how they should price their products, it's a race to the bottom. If I just
Yeah.
make everything cheap enough, everybody should buy it. The problem is price is only an issue in the absence of value. So the perceived value because of the race to the bottom makes people devalue the thing.
Hmm.
So now that they devalue the thing, that doesn't make them more inclined to buy it, makes them actually less inclined to purchase it. So
Agreed.
the pricing should be based off of what the payoff is. If I can price this in such a way that if you were to invest $10,000, but in 12 months you can make 100,000, then that trade-off makes sense every day of the week. So it's not about pricing it so low that everybody can afford it. It's about pricing it that's appropriate based on the payoff that you can get someone. So that's what I mean by price is only an issue in the absence of the value.
Love it. Number five, and this one's important to me. Risk comes from not knowing what you're doing.
Yeah. I, the thing is, there's always going to be inherent risk to everything that we do, right?
Mhm.
As entrepreneurs, especially. But you're either going to risk your way to wealth or you gambling your way to poverty.
Well, that's where that's why this one's important to me because I happen to live in the Silicon Valley. There's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stock market wealth, a lot of Nvidia money and Google money, and just it's stupid how much money some people have around me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes when you have money, you think you can skip to the front of the line. And with real estate investing, because I believe it's a skill,
Mm-hmm.
if you don't invest the time to learn the skill, you are gambling. And if you don't know what you're doing, it's all risk. Yes, I know Ohio is cheap. That doesn't make it good. Yes, I know Michigan is cheap. That doesn't make it good. Yes, I know you can buy a house for $1. That doesn't make it good.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's to me, and maybe this is just again a blind spot that I have. I've seen too many people with money jump to the front of the line, gamble, then lose, that it now feels predictable to me.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything you just said, Mike. I guess for me, my default is risk is educated.
Mm,
The educated risk, right? So I'm taking the assumption that when we say risk, people are preparing themselves as such to have gotten some type of education about the risk profile on what they're about to attempt at. Otherwise, it's like I said, you either risking your way to wealth or you gambling your way to poverty. Even if you
yeah,
have money, if you're not going out to get educated, there's no longer a risk, it's a gamble. It's no
I
different than you taking that money and betting it on black in Vegas, right?
I
So
agree with you 1,000%.
100%. I
Mm.
think you de-risk it as much as possible according to the level of education, coaching, mentorship, skill that you acquire in the process, right? You
Mhm.
de-risk it as much as possible, but there's still an inherent risk to anything we do as entrepreneurs. The challenge for most people is, to your point, Mike, they think the money empowers them to go out and gamble.
You can't skip the line, folks. I'm sorry. You can't wake up and learn a foreign language. You can't wake up and learn a new musical instrument. You can't learn how to sing. What makes you think you can pick up the game of real estate investing just because you have the money and you've committed no time? That is disrespectful to anybody who has put in the time. All
For
right, I
sure.
have a number six that I held back because I think we're going to disagree on this one.
Okay.
Um, I'll let you respond first, but the audience knows how I feel because I actually said it on the daily financial news. This
Okay.
is what Warren Buffett said about himself. And I want to ask you, do you agree about you, Brian? Right? When I give you this quote, I want you to pretend you're saying it. Okay, you
Okay.
ready?
Yep.
I always knew I was going to be rich. I don't think I ever doubted it for a minute.
Yes.
See, I knew we disagree. I can't read that sentence and agree with it. I never, I, I never thought it was, I never even thought about being rich. I thought I was going to be a grinder my entire life. I was going to be paycheck to paycheck my entire life. I knew nothing different. I don't have this unwielding confidence or belief. I don't have it in myself. So this quote, I knew you would say yes. I see it. I believe you.
That's crazy that you knew that I would say yes. I mean, I guess you know me pretty good. It's been a little while now, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
and
it's
and
just
I don't have any like empirical data to support why I feel like that, right? My dad was a firefighter for 30 years. My mom was a cashier at the grocery store for 25 years. So where do I get off thinking that? But from the age of 12, I just had this infatuation with money to where I always felt like I would get rich. I didn't know
yeah.
how, but I
Yeah.
just felt like I would because
Yeah.
I
I just didn't have that.
I enjoyed the chase of it so much, right? That the inevitable was that it's got to happen at some point. I don't know how, but I like this thing called money, and I like making it. I like the process of making it
Yeah.
even more. It fulfills me. So I'm like, yeah, the inevitable is I got to get rich doing something.
Now, do you think that's because you know, when you look at the entrepreneur versus employee scale, right? I'm 100% employee.
Yeah.
You're certainly you're not 100% employee, but would you peg yourself more entrepreneur, just who you are as a human being?
Yes. I think I learned how to acquiesce and coexist in that corporate
Yeah,
construct. I
no,
was
I agree.
there
Yeah, I
for
don't think
12
you're
years,
all over
right?
here, but you're
Yeah, yeah. I think I learned how to kind of acquiesce and figure out how to move within that construct, but ultimately always been an entrepreneur. I mean, I was,
yeah.
in the streets as a late teenager. So that was like my first business, right?
Mhm.
Quote unquote. So I've always been entrepreneurial spirited, just didn't always have the right application for it, right? And
Mm.
which is why when I found real estate at 22 years old back in 2006, I was like, oh, I got something now.
Hey,
Like
I
I got
got
something to
this.
fit. Yeah, it's tangible. I can touch it. I get it. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I could get down with this. This makes sense.
Yeah, and I guess the last thing with this quote I want the audience to believe is it doesn't matter if you're Brian Adamson or Warren Buffett and you always believed you're going to be rich, or you're Mike Zuber and you never thought it was possible, never thought about it. If you do the right things and you do it long enough, getting rich, getting wealthy is inevitable.
Yes, sir.
I
Yes,
never
sir.
thought I would be here. I never even thought I'd be a tenth of where I'm at, maybe even a 20th.
Yeah.
But you do it long enough, you're consistent, you do it over a couple of decades, wealth will happen. Brian,
For
you're
sure.
amazing. This was so much fun for me.
I
Where can
just
people
want to
find you?
I just want to piggyback what you just said, Mike, because this is a real time revelation for me that I hope can be helpful to everybody else. I used to think like you that grinding was the ultimate like badge of honor
Yeah.
or even the plaque of success, right? Now at 40, soon to be 41, a week from today, I don't believe that anymore. It just to me, the thing that perpetuates success most is who you become, not what you do.
Yes.
And
Agreed.
so if I could spend more time at this season of my life ideating, you know, self-improving, all those types of things, then it's preparing me to do something bigger that as opposed to me doing a bunch of stuff all the time, I can, it's like Warren Buffett also says that, before he would have cut down a tree, he would spend, if he had 4 hours to cut down a tree, he'd spend 3 hours sharpening the axe, right? So that's
Yes.
where I'm at a season now where I find more value in sharpening the axe to make that proper cut, you know what I mean? As opposed to thinking that just because I'm putting in X amount of hours every day, that that's some badge of honor. And I think it's a lot of people that bought that same societal lie. It's like grinding will probably make you successful if you're grinding on the right things, but it's not the thing that's going to make you most successful.
Love it. Where can they find you?
Brian Adamson official on YouTube, Instagram, and everywhere else. And shout out to everybody in the ORAD family. Love you guys. Really enjoy, the conversation that we had.
Awesome. Appreciate you.
Yes, sir.